Hi, my name is Brian. I'm the founder of the Bosque Village, and I guess today we're going to talk about resource uses and community and what's going on so far. We're talking, I guess, at 2013. So we're post 2012. It's a new world. And if you don't like something I say, to make me redo it.
Okay. And how do I stop recording?
Stop? Oh, this little tiny button right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, but should I talk about that I'm interviewing you?
If you want.
Okay.
We can also go back and get that later.
Okay,
That's what editing is all about.
Okay. So I'm interviewing Brian Fey at the Bosque Village today. And the first question I have for him is, what is your concept of community and how are you trying to implement that here?
I think one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I don't feel a sense of community in my life, and I haven't always been in tune with the communities that I grew up in. I think that's a problem for a lot of people, and I think that's why there's so much interest in communities. We have community, of course. We're very interconnected. We work together, we use technology. There's not a problem in a lack of community worldwide. We're totally interconnected. Well, I think we're dealing with definition of community here. I mean, what I'm referring to here is kind of the amazing interconnectedness of human society, our ability internationally to create astounding products and do scientific research and create an astounding world. But that isn't, I think, what the question's really asking about what community we can create that serves us in our lives. So we have kind of a definitional problem here. But what's the problem then? People don't feel connected. They don't feel close to people. Maybe they're removed from their family because we have car culture, driving around all the time and move around. Maybe they don't feel accepted as a part of a community. So they have community, but they don't feel like they're okay within it. The communities I've been exposed to as a child were religious communities, and it's a common situation where if people aren't in tune with that, then they need to get out. It happens with the Amish, for example. If you're a kid who's an Amish kid and you don't fit in with that, well, you have the opportunity to leave or fit in. Well, my hope is that even though historically most communities have been fairly narrow in their focus and their cultural restrictions, that we can now, in a new world, create communities where diversity is welcome, where you don't have to leave your community because you don't fit in. But of course, we need a base set of ethics and a way to trust each other and function well. But beyond that, hopefully, we can have greater freedom that allows us to have community in diverse populations. So that's some of the motivation for what I'm trying to do here. Of course, that ends up really fun. You end up with almost a festival culture where you get all the cultural mixing and all the influences and people teaching and learning and all that. And that sounds a little bit less boring than an Amish community might sound to me or most of us. The problem, however, remains nearly impossible. I have seen so many efforts at creating intentional community where people get together, but they're not doing the base work to make that happen. They're not working on sustainability. They try and reject so much of the dominant culture that doesn't serve them that they reject the things we have to survive as a community, like basic ethics and things like that, or making money. We need to have businesses. We need to produce value. So a lot of the efforts that people have are really destined to just be very temporary and unsuccessful. The community here is not yet successful. I'm alone, essentially, and I don't have a sustainable financial model. I don't have partners and other people, but I'm open to that. I've done most of the hard work in setting up the base infrastructure. There's over 80 acres. There's a lot of sustainable systems already in place so we can live cheaply, live closer to nature, if that's what you're into. But it's time to expand it beyond just me. I've gone as far as I can go. Well, that's not really totally accurate to say it's just me. There's families, local families, who are investing and working very hard on creating the systems here, and they're learning a lot, and we continue to have some visitors through. The problem is that it's just me who's financing it, and I'm kind of at the end of that. I'm frustrated that even though there's a lot of big talkers traveling the world who want to stay places for free, talk about community, when it comes right down to it, they can't do anything, or they're not willing to do anything actually, because they come from such rich countries. And the locals, I mean, there's really no jobs around here, so I've provided what I can provide. But without me, there is no Bosque Village. That has to change.
The exciting thing here is, as we look at the potentially dismal future and all the horrible things that could happen to humanity, is it's actually a big, cool, exciting puzzle. People used to have very fulfilling, exciting lives, full of culture and family, friendship, everything. And they did that in a pre-oil world. We're smarter now. We know how to use our few resources to make better things, to serve us better. We can decide what tools to use or not. So we get to go back, potentially. We can rediscover nature and live better than we do now in this rich world with so many devices and batteries and everything that we end up oppressing ourselves with. So we don't have to go back to a sad world scraping life out of the dirt. No, we go back with knowledge about how medicine works. We go back knowing about science. We can go back to a better world restoring the earth than we were ever in before. That sounds optimistic. See, I like that.
Yeah.
So now comes the hard part. How can we work together? Mostly as children of the industrial world, we've been spoiled, we're rich. And how can we get back to living with less energy, living together, retaining our kind of cultural openness to each other? But we really have to get kind of fundamental in getting back to survival in a post-oil world, post-cheap oil world. I have read some books about forming a community. They give you advice. And I'm a little disturbed by some of the advice. One book I have, over half the book is just about how to find land and then finance it. I really recommend against that. If you're going to be a community of people in debt to the default system, to the dominant system, then you've kind of already failed. And you're going to be in conflict over money and things. And I'd rather see us going more of a caveman direction. Like, let's keep it very simple. And here we're doing okay in the Bosque. I'm producing more food every year. So the gardens during the rainy season produce lots of food. We've gotten better at preserving food and also teaching locals how to preserve food. The chickens and the rabbits have been a huge benefit. That's one of our first tradable, eggs and rabbit meat are one of our first tradable products that we can have all year long. And of course, every single part of that system has to be considered. Every single bit that could be waste, how can we use it? What waste can we bring in from the outside, like sawdust from a mill or something? So this is not an easy thing to create community. It's not getting together to create a festival and feeling good. We have to work on real conflict resolution, like actually not just pretending we are. So I'm not an expert on that, and I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not even a good leader on that. So my role has been my role. It's to define the space, define some of the basic values, and look at how humans and nature can interact without destroying nature. At this point, though, it's got to be partnership with other people who have their own visions, compatible visions, and they can come in and really build a new society. And that's exciting. We have that opportunity. So many people more and more are dissatisfied and disillusioned with slavery and the system as it is, and how trapped they are, and how it isn't even serving them on a basic level. So as we design a new culture, we can be informed from every culture all around the world, and we can still be idealistic. We need to be. But it's going to be a hardcore task to build a real community that can sustain in a very difficult future.
What is your idea of permaculture? And do you grow your own food? What do you have to buy?
One of the philosophies we follow here is permaculture, but I'm not always sure what that is. It's a set of design principles and a set of practices that are generally pretty good. We do try and follow a sense of looking at all parts of the system and integrating it to use the waste of one system to feed the others. I sort of find that for some people permaculture can become a little religious, But the actual core principles of permaculture are not prescribing exactly what you should do. They're prescribing methods of thinking about it. I'm lucky enough to live in an amazing climate. The challenges here are far less than in many places, and so we can have a greater chance of success. I mean, we're a little harder core in some sense than just permaculture. There's a lot of permaculture systems that are actually very reliant on outside resources such as water. And I want to get harder core. I like the idea of food forest farming. Because if there's a field producing food and it has a low level of biomass and there's not a lot of mycelia in the soil, I'm not so sure we have a sustainable system. I want to see massive biomass. I want to see all these trees with deep root systems. I want to see symbiotic relationships with the birds, the insects, and everything. And that's where you start to get away from just a human-focused version of agriculture. I suspect, based on reading about studies and history people have done, that humans have pretty much destroyed nature whenever they've had access to it. We killed off the megafauna. We trample everything we're near. You know, for a while we were nomadic and our impact was less. But as soon as we start doing agriculture in traditional sense, we're destroying things around us. And now, of course, we've tapped out on that and we're doing agriculture in modern ways, the green revolution of, you know, bringing resources using gasoline from one place to another, slowly poisoning the ground. That whole system is probably completely untenable. We're not going to be able to continue it. So the crazy idea here, the extremist opinion, the extremist view, is that we can go back to trying to live in a forest like hunter-gatherers. So I'm not looking as much at can I grow cucumbers or zucchinis as much as can I use the oak acorns that are already there. Those acorns were the sustenance for indigenous people on this entire continent of North America, Turtle Island. And if we can figure out how to use that instead, we don't have to chop down the forest to do the agriculture we think we want to do. That's a very hardcore position. And I really hope that we like oak acorns. We may have to, as a culture, adjust ourselves and what we want to what's available in the natural environment, rather than killing the environment to get the exotic stuff we want. We should not be eating exotic foods from far away. Now, I'm lucky enough to live in a state here, the state of Michoacan in Mexico, where there's a lot of different climates nearby. And sustainability doesn't have to be about producing all of your own food right where you're at. I mean, trade happened with all kinds of ancient cultures.
Where do you get your water from? And what do you do to reduce your water usage? Where do you get your water from? And what do you do to reduce your water usage?
Well, we're not perfect. Trying to be. The ideal is if all of the water in your system comes from the rain that falls on that land, you capture it from your buildings and can store it. We do pretty good. Most of the buildings are set up for rain capture. The actual costs in rain capture are in storage. And we have a very short rainy season here. So what your solution would depend. If it rained every day, you don't need as much storage. You can trust a little bit more. Here, all the rain comes in like 3-4 months. So we fill up our cisterns and we solve the general lack of water with massive conservation. We want to use as little water as possible. We do not want to use any outside water. That includes rivers that go through. There aren't any here because they're all tapped up at the springs and everything. That includes wells. If you're on well water, you're still using the water of the ground and you're lowering the water table. These are the kind of things that cause water conflicts among people in societies. So we want to totally not do that. We want all the water to come from the sky. We want to store it safely, use it carefully. I'll tell you the flaws here. First, I still order bottled water that gets delivered in a big truck. And it's in big reusable bottles at least, so plastic-wise it's not as bad as it could be. But, you know, it's some company delivering it. And the reason I do that is because I get people from all over the world come here, and I don't want them to get sick on the water we have. Even if it's psychosomatic sickness, because they know they're on off-the-grid water, I don't want them to get sick. So I give them bottled water. The ideal would be is if I get a microscope and I get my water tested, and we can just give people water to drink off the property, and that's one more to-do item. Next stage. We have about 80,000, 90,000 liters of total storage here. That's no problem for a few people to use all year long, but it's a big problem if people come in from the outside. Most people are used to taking showers every single day. I don't blame them. They live in cities. It's disgusting and they're dirty. But, you know, the whole city water system is not very sustainable. You've got your tubes of fresh water coming into your house, and then they're using water in their toilets to mix it with shit, and then they're putting it out through another tube that goes by the other one. Well, tubes break. So pretty soon you're contaminating your fresh water supply, plus you were using all that water in your water toilet. Water toilets use about 40% of the water in a household. So almost half your water you're just wasting right there. It's a huge loss. Here, we use composting toilets. So none of that water is lost. Zero. We have gray water systems. You could do a little better on that. But certainly using your gray water to irrigate a little bit is great. We don't irrigate in general here. That's a whole different philosophical style of agriculture. And because irrigation uses so much water, there's people who have no water. Their families die because companies steal the water and their river runs dry. It's very sad to look at. So we do, you know, water baby plants and everything, but we do not want to rely on irrigation. That means the decision to raise food with the natural rain pattern is actually part of water conservation and better water use. So all these things kind of fit together, and it's hard to think about it in isolation. This is a more holistic way of thinking, and that's, you know, sort of permaculture thinking. But the key has to remain conservation, massive radical conservation. Because right now you just have the systems that have control using up all the water, and the poor folks can, you know, kind of beg off them for any sustenance at all.
Why are we even bothering to talk about this? No one's going to do anything about it. People are very used to their comforts, and they'll use those comforts for as long as they can. We're going to use as much energy as we can until people start dying off.
Okay. How do you feel about hosting volunteers, and what is your procedure for accepting new residents? How do you feel about hosting volunteers, and what is your procedure for accepting new residents if you are accepting new residents at this time?
We've had volunteers here from all over the world, and how that has gone has changed according to the agreements we make with them. Overall, I would like volunteers to be more conscious of the impact they have on the systems that they're visiting. A lot of volunteers come from great wealth and privilege, and they incur great costs upon the hosts. For me, of course, I work as hard as I can to provide an amazing volunteer experience. I want people to experience a different world. I want them to learn, and certainly volunteers say they want to learn. So I'll do the work on my end. But I would like it if there was more of a culture of volunteers who are looking at what costs that they're creating. And for people coming here, I would like them to see it as an experiment in how little they can use. Most of the places that used to accept volunteers in Mexico no longer do. And if you talk to anybody who has, they'll tell you about the costs that volunteers create. They need a lot of attention. They need a lot of comforts. Not all of them. They vary widely. So it's been tricky. My stereotype on volunteers in general is that they're smarter than the average person. They're better educated. They go to fancy schools often. They travel the world. And they're fun people to talk to. They're even cuter than normal people. But you got to wonder then why places don't necessarily always want them. And I'd like to solve that problem somehow. We've changed things here a little bit. We might charge volunteers. We have at various times. And I think volunteers should understand why. You know, in a place with no money, no jobs, you know, we're trying to scrape by and survive. If you come from a first world And maybe you should raise funds in the world you come from, of wealth and everything, to bring in financial resources to the system. So even though it might seem objectionable to have to pay to work, much of the work that volunteers provide isn't valuable. Volunteers can also work on that. They can try and build special skills that are actually really important. And each place is probably a little different in what they need. For me, I enjoy having volunteers. Some of them are just gorgeous, beautiful individuals who have great ideas. Sometimes I have the emotional energy and time to engage with them and listen, and other times I don't. I'm never a big fan of people coming into my home and criticizing me and telling me what I have to do, because they're speaking from a position of ignorance, and nobody likes to be told what to do. It seems rude. But you know, I'm continuing, and I've learned a lot about how to figure that out, and I hope other people are on board with considering the costs and the issues as well. A lot of the things I do here come from festival culture, which is temporary community, and volunteers are really part of a temporary community. And we can make that work. We can have it be really exciting and fun and very educational for everybody. The Bosque is a strange vision, and I've been here for a while, mostly alone a lot of time, and it's time to add more people. So I'm listed on various sites where people are looking for communities to create, and of course each person has different needs. I welcome people who have vision of what they can create. I'm very flexible in how that can work out. I would love to see people come here who either can work remotely and provide value for the community that way, or they can build systems here. It'd be great to start a language school. It'd be great to have people come here that provide services that attract other people who are paying guests. And I don't know how that can all work out. I suppose that people who want to be residents in the community should visit a lot of them and find out how the vibe is and what can work. My vision here is pretty hardcore. We can always get together with a bunch of rich people and have a really fun party. There's a lot of communities that get created like that. Most of them don't last because the people's values diverge, etc. The advantage I have here is that I've got the basic infrastructure set. There are some things about the vision that might not be agreeable to people. Now, I'm very open to people of all kinds of walks of life, all kinds of sexuality, spirituality, all kinds of ways of being and style. That's great. But my biggest commitment is to the forest itself. And I can't go along with any vision of a community that will destroy the forest. I want people then to be in buildings that are kind of clustered communities, so most of the land is left virgin, and have those buildings be designed so that you don't have noise conflicts so much, and so that each building has its own energy systems. So each building has its own rain capture, each building has its own solar power, and that sets you also free from being controlled by the community at large. A lot of intentional communities have a narrow focus people have to fit into culturally. I would rather envision it more like a town, where we accept diversity of people, and also as your own needs change. Let's say you have kids, for example. Well, your needs changed, your vision changes, and that should work out. We should think about kids, old people, all parts of the system for a healthy, continuing, sustainable system, not just a temporary community that's really a festival that's going to die because we didn't develop an actual alternative to the default culture. That's all tricky and big. I suppose it matters, does it feel good? That's the number one thing, and hopefully we collect people who are emotionally responsible and aware enough, hopefully better than me, to work well together. Hopefully we don't try and share a lot of property. I really believe that communal ownership of things causes conflict. It creates conflict even if there's a couple. The couples, even when they split. All of a sudden it's about dividing up property and ownership of the children even. That's a bummer. Now hopefully if we design a system in which people have their own personal power and everybody's building that up enough, we are wealthy enough, with real wealth, not necessarily money wealth, but real wealth, that we become very giving voluntarily to each other. So everybody's teaching and learning, and lending of tools becomes easy. And this is kind of a vision more in tune with kind of a pioneer spirit, where we're all helping each other out, and we have great holidays and great food, and we're voluntarily coming together rather than building a system in which we're all oppressed by an alternative, new intentional system, as opposed to the larger systems that we're trying to escape, the larger oppressive systems that crush us and make us slaves to the system. So I don't know how that can all work out. We have models to look at. I'm not putting myself in any position of leadership as far as being a good person for knowing about community, but I know that the options are out there, and we're going to have to look at, maybe giving up a lot of things we come from, as far as ego and things we expect from society, and do a lot of experimentation to see what we can build.
Besides drinking water, what do you have to outsource here? And what are the major costs? Maybe that people do not think about.
There is kind of this vision that if you escape out into nature, that everything is free. And I suppose it could be if you just scrape off the dirt a little bit of sustenance. But we are trained to want a lot, and so there are real costs. We have a vehicle. Vehicles cost to run. I should probably be using horses. Chainsaws. We can switch all to hand tools, and that is a great idea. But I've had a guy out here, for example, who was criticizing my use of chainsaws, and I handed him an axe, and he cut down his first tree. After that, he thought chainsaws have a use, at least for now. I like the general thinking, though. I like it to get away from machines altogether, because machines always cost, and they cost here. Other expenses, we're trying to get off the commercial food grid for dogs, so we make our own dog food. It's pretty cool, and the dogs are healthier for it, too. We still are not off the animal food grid entirely. I still buy chicken food, for example. Rabbits are a great choice because they can eat food from the forest. Other costs, well, we buy food. We buy food that's produced in the state to give us variety and enjoyment. There's dried goods. Those are very cheap for the amount of value they provide, so it's not the worst cost. Fresh foods, we buy foods from Tierra Caliente. We want to eat papayas and things, and I can't grow those here. So as you look at like a hardcore vision of sustainability and total self-sufficiency, we can do it. But we better get real used to eating fairly boring food. Every day the same thing. I mean, we better go back to thinking like pioneers trying to survive. And I'm not sure most people want to do that. I do want us to go more in that direction. But I also want guests to be happy eating yummy food. Other costs, well, we're very into natural building, and we're getting closer on that. But for example, we don't produce glass. So I'm going to buy glass to put in a window in a building. And so when you add up all these costs, you start to lose this delusional notion that somehow you're going to go back to nature and it's all going to be magic and nature will provide. Unless you're willing to go really caveman. You've got to be very willing to be a caveman. And I don't think most people, including myself, are really too excited about getting there too quick.
Do you have any spiritual beliefs that you're trying to incorporate here?
I come from a spiritual background, and what I would like to do is take the best of what religion and spirituality has provided people as human culture evolved. Take that and preserve it and enhance it. I would like to free us up from authoritarian religions. I'd like to free us up from anti-science religion. I'd like to free us up to get back in tune with the spirit that originally inspired all of us. Let's get back to the stars. Let's get back to the trees. Let's get back to being in tune with animals. Let's raise our children in a way that they're in tune with nature. Let's get rid of nature deficit disorder. Let's have them play with plants. So if we're going to have spirituality, then let's have it be us-oriented spirituality, nature-oriented spirituality. We do not need outside spiritual teachers to come in wearing white or having a fancy hat that shows that they're closer to God. No, we can be closer to Gaia, to God, Mother Earth. And that's pretty important. Now, if people want to be religious, I don't want to fight it. They can do what they want. They can support whatever organizations they want. But here, for this time, I don't want a lot of people telling me what I have to do, that I have to follow their path. No, I'm on my path. I support you on your path, as long as you respect mine.
What is the secret ingredient in sustainability?
The secret ingredient in sustainability. Well, it doesn't sound sexy, doesn't sound fun, but I think radical conservation. We have been trained to live like emperors. We have lived in a world of massive surplus. And so I think the only reason where we'll be able to survive in the future will be learning ways to live burning less resources, burning less oil, getting away from the luxury that we've had, and hopefully rediscovering the luxury that we can have. I'm hoping that we actually can have a better life using less. So I guess conservation seems to be the secret to sustainability. Yeah. Are you laughing at me or with me?
Well, I guess that's all the questions I have for you, Brian, and thank you so much for sitting with me today. So, thank you, and good luck in the Bosque Village.